So in today is Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday. So it is Sugama. So we were discussing the 49th Khanda. Purvapakshi said that knowing different from one body, different from one body means I am not limited to one body. Okay, that I know that I am not limited to one body, that means I am something more than a body. This is what implies. I am not limited to one body only implies that I am something more than a body, but capable of assuming many bodies. This knowledge, is it not Atma Jnanam? This is no doubt Atma Jnanam. Then how do you say this Atma Jnanam is ignorance? Siddhanti told, even that is ignorance, because there, though you know that you are more than body, that knowing doesn't help you to exist as independent of the body. So in spite of your knowledge, you identify with the body, you function through the body, and hope to enjoy the results of karma through the body alone. See, in spite of your understanding of yourself as different from the body, still your identification with the body continues like before. You are functioning and hoping to enjoy the result of this karma in another world. All this continues through the body alone. Your existence through the body. Therefore, what he means to say is, there is a knowledge of Atma in Karma Kanda. In Karma and Upasana Kanda, the knowledge of Atma that is given in Karma Kanda, Upasana Kanda, is not a complete knowledge of Atma. It is only an informative knowledge. An informative knowledge, it is a kind of a belief, or not only belief, it is a conceptual knowledge. Logically you are convinced and belief. That I am more than a body is a belief and a logical conviction, but not a direct experience that I am independent of the body. See, this is the difference. In Karma Kanda and Upasana Kanda, you believe that Atma is more than the body, more than a given body, through the pramana of the Shastra. That means that through you get a belief given by the Shastra, and also it gives you some logical explanation. So you will have a probability. All the logical explanation only shows you a probability logic. A belief, a probability, logical probability. That's all you know. But in your experience, you still continue to be identify with the body, function through the body, and hope to experience the result of the karma through the body alone. If not one body and another body. One body, another body doesn't make any difference. Being embodied, being a sashariri. Sashariri means having a body. In having a body, that I am subject to body, doesn't make any difference whether one body or two bodies, whether one body or many body, or a short while live in the body or long time live in the body. Body is body. Okay. Whether you live a short while in the body or a long time in the body, but it is a body. Therefore, that knowledge is not the Atma Jnanam. That Jnanam is only Ajnanam alone. Ajnanam means the real nature of Jnanam. That is a Jnanam compared to, that is also considered as a Jnanam compared to another person who is an atheist, who thinks that body alone is Atma and nothing more than the body. Okay. So, compared to a worldly person, this is called a Jnanam. But this Jnanam doesn't liberate you from your individuality, and you continue to be the individual Atma only. Therefore, you don't have Atma Jnanam. That means you continue to be ignorant. Therefore, Navayam Karma Jnanam Tadartham Atma Jnanam Va Karmadhikara Karanamiha Apavadamaha Ityuktameva. We are not denying that much of Jnanam is a kind of Atma Jnanam, a partial Atma Jnanam, an indirect Atma Jnanam. Indirect means a conceptual, a logical conviction. We don't deny that it is a logical knowledge, conceptual knowledge, but not a direct experience. Okay? Tadrusha jnanam to adhyasa lakshana vidyantapatyeva bhavati. And such jnanam, only being a belief or a conceptual knowledge, doesn't free you from adhyasa. That I am an individual, this sense of individuality doesn't go away by a logic or a belief. See, what he means to say is, a belief that you are different from the body doesn't release you from the body, from the connection with the body, or a logically conviction that I am different from the body. Either a belief that I am different from the body, that I am going to another world, a belief that I am different from one body, or a logical conviction that I am different from the body. These two, none of these two mean the real jnanam. Means none of these two can remove your adhyasa. Neither belief removes adhyasa, nor a logical conviction removes adhyasa. It is a direct experience alone removes adhyasa. This is what? See how Swamiji, beautiful Swamiji's manana is an amazing thing. Bah, Sachidanandendra Swamiji is like another Shankara, another Shankaracharya. See his manana, his thinking, in each word, so much of thinking. In fact, it is not only me, such a great Swamiji like Akhandananda Swamiji of Vrindavan. He himself is a Shankaracharya. When the Pitha, he was offered, he was selected for that, but he refused it. And his wisdom and his knowledge was so vast. Every school of philosophy in India, there is no school which he doesn't know. There is no sampradaya which he doesn't know. And there is nobody who doesn't respect him in all over India, north and south. Even Shankaracharyas have appreciated. And such Akhandananda Swamiji appreciated Sachidanandendra Swamiji by a statement. Do you know, in this Kali Yuga, what a deep thinking even in this Kali Yuga. Referring to Sachidanandendra Swamiji, what a deep thinking even in this Kali Yuga. Even that means it is a rare. Kali Yuga means what is where that contemplation coming down. People have no time, people are not doing such a deep contemplation. People are going by the superficial knowledge because that requires a real vairagyam, that requires a deep thinking, only commitment to truth alone. He just wants to understand the truth. Only such people can do vichara. Other people learn little bit and more interested in propagating to others. See, they learn little bit and just start teaching, start propagating to others. In our Shastras, any subject, whether you learn Karmakanda or Sahityam or music or Vedanta or Vyakarana or anything, generally we tell the people, if he is only a curious, okay, he can learn something and go away. But if a person wants a real depth of it, don't go immediately, don't jump to propagation. First you learn, spend time with your Guru, learn it, let it become a tapas, jnana tapas. Okay, you have to do a lot of inward contemplation, lot of contemplation. So spend more time in that, and you don't have any worldly ambitions about telling others, correcting others, trying to teaching others. All these things make you bahirmukha, extroverted, and that what you call brings you down from your contemplation level. Therefore, the real thinkers, the real jignasu, real rishis, Vedantic rishis, just the oblivious means unmindful of the external world. They are only absorbed in their contemplation alone. They are just interested in knowing the truth as it is. If the students come, if they are interested, they will teach. In fact, almost all my gurus, I think that way I am lucky that whomever I got the guru, all the gurus, none of were worldly minded people. In fact, they would discourage the people who take interest in go and teach the society, go and teach in the society. They would make fun of me. Almost all my gurus made fun of me. Why do you want to go and teach them? Those who are interested, they will come to you. You sit in a solitary place and do your contemplation. Don't be so over enthusiastic to go and teach. If you go to society and try to teach, you have to say something in order to please them. Then you will be diluting your teaching. Compromising. Diluting means many things you're compromising. By compromising, what do you get? No compromising. Uncompromising truth as a truth. That can be done only when the student comes in search of knowledge. You teach him only when he comes to you in search of knowledge. Don't go and teach them. See, this is what my gurus have been telling. Stay here. Don't think of worldly things, trying to change others, trying to convince others. If he is a real jignasu, he will come. Bhagavan will bring them. Don't worry. Anyway, you leave them. So this is what the contemplation, our rishis were not so over enthusiastic to go and teach others. But first, they were absorbed in it. If the students come on their own, they teach them. Shankaracharya also went in search of the guru from Kerala to what you call Madhya Pradesh. In those days, such a half of India, in such a thick forest, and a young boy, without knowing where. In those days, there were no addresses. Which guru is where? Nobody knows. These days, you have addresses of people and telephone numbers and all. Nobody would know. And in such way, he went in search of them. And luckily, he got a right guru there. Okay, so Tadrisha Jnanam to Adhyasa Lakshana Vidyantapatyeva. That knowledge means a belief that you are different from the body, you are Atma different from the body, and a logical conclusion, a conceptual knowledge, a logical probability. This knowledge keeps you in Adhyasa alone. That means it doesn't correct your Adhyasa. Adhyasa correction takes place only when you do Anubhavanusaravagi Chintanam. When you do Chintanam according to your Anubhava, analyze your experiences, discover a deeper experience, negating the superficial false experiences. Okay? By negating false experiences, arrive at an unnegatable experience. Unnegatable real experience. There are false experiences, and experiences means misunderstandings only, adhyasas only. What is taken to be an experience, that I am a body appears to be an experience. It is not an experience, it is a notion. It's an identification. False experience is something which can be negated. A real experience is something which cannot be negated because it is self-existence. It is not available for any negation nor assertion. The real experience of Atma is available neither for assertion nor for negation, because it is not available for any process of mind, for any functioning of mind. It's not available. It's beyond it. It is self-existing. Therefore, there are certain wrong identifications that I am a body, that I am an individual, that I am a mind, and all these things. These things appear as if they are experiences alone. Therefore, common people never bother to question that I am the body. I am the body, I am the mind, I am sense organs, I am an individual, I am subject to pain and pleasure, I am subject to birth and death, and I am also subject to action also. I am an agent of action. I am a karta. I am a karta, bhokta, jnata. This kind of understanding, people do not question. Common people do not question, do not try to go beyond them. Questioning means you want to see whether this is my real nature, or this is only a taken to be me, but in fact not me. This appears to be me, this is taken to be me, but I have never questioned. But it might not be me. Nobody questions it. Because what I take myself to be, that I am an individual, is taken there. Nobody has a doubt. Nobody questions. Even if there is a suffering in life, even if you are, see, everybody, we see that we are all subject to death, but still I am the body. This idea nobody questions. It's a very strange thing. We see many people die, and you also know that you leave your body, but still, am I the body? That nobody questions it. Because we have such an experience. Experience means we are an identification. The identification is such that it doesn't allow you to question. Therefore, as long as you continue in that thing, and you may entertain any beliefs, any concepts, any logical conclusions, convictions, and all, none of them you may have. It is very beautiful. Logical conclusions are good. Believing the Shastras, all they are good. They may serve their own purpose. They encourage you to do some good work and serve society and be selfless and try to learn some values and discipline. All that is good. A religion life, a karmakanda is good. We are not blaming it. We are not criticizing like atheists. What we mean to say is, you have not yet, the belief or logical conviction doesn't correct your anubhava, a wrong anubhava. A right anubhava is understood only by questioning this present experience, present identity, and see, are you in that identity all the time? Or you have a physical identity only in your waking state, and in dream you don't have it. And your mind and other identity is in one of the states. That means your bodily identity, body and mind, sense organs identity found in waking state varies, goes away. Goes away means disappears in dream, and the dream identity goes away in waking. That means the identity pertains to a particular state. It is not your real you. If it were real you, in whichever state you go, it must continue. In whichever state I am, my real identity will always remain the same in spite of my changing the states. This is the what you call the standard, the measuring rod, the measuring scale. This is the measuring scale you have to apply. So, out of this experience, which part of me is self-existent, and which part of me is conditional? Which part of me is conditional? Which part of me is variable? Which part of me is invariable and unconditional? Okay, unchanging, unconditional. Which part of me? This is the measuring scale you have to apply. This is the principle you have to apply. This is what is Vedanta Vichara. Otherwise, logical conviction, belief, all that is okay. Good, they are useful. At its own level, they are useful. At their own level. But the real Atma should be verified, should be judged from a different principle. That is, what is self-existing? What is unconditional? Means, what part of me is unconditional existence? What part of me is a conditional me, conditional identity? There is a conditional identity, there is an unconditional identity of me. What is unconditional? What is conditional? This you discriminate between them. This viveka we have to do. Okay. Asangasya atmanah swayam vyapara nishkriyatve sati kartrutva bhoktrutvanupapattehe. So Atma by its nature is asanga. That asanga Atma is not yet known. Self-existing, uninvolved, untouched by anything, unaffected by anything, it remains always self-same and independent. That asangasya atmanah swayam vyapara abhavat. So all the changes, the relations, the changes and relations, the modifications or relations, all these things pertain to individual Atma. That is the consciousness appearing through mind. Consciousness appearing through mind also looks like consciousness. We call it Chidabhasa. Like the light reflected in a mirror also looks like light, but it's not original light, because when it is passing through a certain medium, it carries certain features of the medium. It gets colored by the medium. So the consciousness, when it is passing through mind and sense organs, it carries, it receives certain features, certain qualities of mind and sense organs also. It adds mind and sense organs to the features, the qualities of mind and sense organ. But unfortunately, we take even this reflected consciousness as the real consciousness. This is where we have to do viveka. Okay. The real consciousness, how do you know the real? Real is real. Real means what? It doesn't depend upon anything. It is not conditional. It is not relational. It doesn't come and go. It doesn't depend upon anything. Nor it can be negated. It remains on its own, independent. And what appears like consciousness also going away. The wakeful consciousness, that means not the two kinds of here. In the waking state, one is the whole wakeful consciousness, another is consciousness of the world, consciousness of individuality. See, consciousness of the worldly objects one by one, consciousness of worldly objects, consciousness of individuality, my body, mind, and sense organs. A given object, this consciousness is through mind. See, the consciousness through mind and consciousness as a whole state, there is a difference. The Vaishvanara consciousness. Consciousness is consciousness through mind. Can see only subject and object. But there is a consciousness, which consciousness of the whole waking state is, it includes both subject and object, and that consciousness is only a screen of a film theater. So the entire world, including the subject object, goes away. That consciousness remains as the basis of dream. The same thing remains the basis of waking, basis of dream. It doesn't change as the state changes. So one is a consciousness within the state, another is consciousness of the whole state itself. The consciousness which is aware of the entire state, that consciousness doesn't come and go. Even the state disappears, but the consciousness continues in dream. It continues, even when the dream state disappears, both the states waking and dream, it remains stateless. That consciousness is beyond mind. Okay, so here we have to see one consciousness functioning through mind, reflected in the mind. Another is independent of mind. How do you know? How to distinguish that? If a consciousness is dependent, related, dependent means if a consciousness is related means it is knowing an object. While knowing an object, it is conscious. Consciousness is consciousness while knowing an object. That is subject-object relationship is there. Second is, it is changing. As the object changes, it changes. That means the mind keeps fluctuating, then the consciousness also fluctuates. So this is called a reflected consciousness. Reflected means it is not independent, Swatasiddha Chaitanyam. It is not independent consciousness. It is a dependent consciousness. It is still depend upon the mind and sense organs. Okay. Now the real me, when I give up my sense organs, when I give up my de-identify from my mind, still the consciousness is there. That consciousness is the real one. It doesn't depend upon the mind and sense organs and the world. World may be there, world may not be there. Still it is conscious. The conscious is not a relative consciousness. Relative means it is aware of an object. But the Sakshi is not aware of the object, means it doesn't depend upon the presence and absence of the object. It is consciousness because it is conscious. Its consciousness is independent of the presence and absence of an object. The presence and absence of an object, it doesn't depend upon it. But the mind consciousness, the reflected consciousness is when the object is there, it is there. When there is no object, no consciousness. This is Chidabhasa. Reflected consciousness, only when the object is, you see that you feel that you are conscious. When there is no object, you feel there is no consciousness. See, in deep sleep there is no consciousness. That is Chidabhasa. What you say exists in waking and dream, but doesn't exist in deep sleep. If you think, what are you thinking? What is that consciousness which you say, which you are referring to in deep sleep as non-existent? It is the wakeful consciousness. It is the waking mind that is absent in dream, in deep sleep. It is the dream mind that is absent in deep sleep. Therefore, you say there is no consciousness in deep sleep. That means you are referring to the mind. The mind, in contrast with waking and dream, the mind which exists in waking dream, and in contrast with this mental consciousness or reflected consciousness or the consciousness seen through the mind, seen in a condition of mind, in a situation of mind. Okay, that consciousness is dependent on mind, related to the external object, and subject to coming and going. Okay, it disappears. In deep sleep, it doesn't exist. When you wake up, that consciousness comes. People think that is consciousness. What comes, what is present in waking but absent in deep sleep, that is consciousness. That is reflected consciousness. Okay, that is Chidabhasa. But the chit is whether the object is present or absent, still consciousness is there. It doesn't depend upon the external object, whether the object is or object is not. Consciousness is on its own. It's independent. It doesn't change. It is not relative. It's not dependent. So this, what we distinguish is, what we do Viveka is the reflected consciousness, between reflected consciousness and unreflected, pure, real consciousness. This Viveka is required. Okay. This Vedanta teaches, this Viveka is Anubhava Viveka. Okay. This is not a belief. This is not a logical conclusion. A logical conclusion is a concept. It is a probability. Logic shows the probability. You become convinced. Conviction is based upon logic. That means it is a concept. It is a conclusion arrived. But here in Vichara, it is not a conclusion based upon logic. It is analyzing, discriminating the experience. You pay attention to experience. Watch it. Observe it. See, in the experience there is an element which appears like an experience, but that is not a real experience. A changing experience, a relative experience appears as me, but not real me, because I withdraw my sense of me from mind. From my mind, I withdraw my sense of me. I stand without a notion of me, notion of I, but still I am conscious. I am conscious without a notion of I. The notion of I is in the mind. But when you transcend the mind, like in deep sleep or the Sakshi, you have no notion of I. Sakshi is consciousness without a notion of I. That means, what is a notion of I? It is related to you. It is related to object. A consciousness which is related to object is relative. That is Chidabhasa. If there is consciousness which is not related to other, it is conscious because its very nature is conscious. When the object is there or not, you just don't care. Set aside the object. Then you see the consciousness independently. That is, whether the presence of object or absence of object, it doesn't discriminate. It is aware of presence of mind and absence of mind. This consciousness is aware of the mind and absence of mind. And mind has gone away. Now the mind is both. It is a basis of both. So that doesn't have an absence of consciousness. See, the reflected consciousness through the mind have got two stages. One is a conscious state, another is absence of consciousness. But when Sakshi is aware of, it doesn't have an absence. Because Sakshi is the very nature of consciousness. It is always conscious. No absence exists for consciousness. No beginning, no ending. There is no sequence in consciousness. When the Pramatru is aware of, when the mind is aware of, there is a sequence in knowledge. Okay, when mind is aware of, there is a sequence. You know small things and know one by one. See, the mind knows, or the Pramatru knows, the knowership. The Pramatru or Gnatru knows the world one by one. It doesn't know the entire universe in one stroke. It knows the small things and knows one by one. That means its very knowing is within time. Pramatru exists within time because Pramatru knows the objects one by one in a sequence. That means Pramata operates within time, knows only small things, whereas the Sakshi knows the entire universe in one stroke. There is no sequence. There is no time in Sakshi's knowing. When Sakshi knows, there is no time. That means for Sakshi, there is a previous experience, later experience. Sakshi doesn't have past and present and future. Pramatru has past, present and future. See the contrast. Pramatru's knowledge, Pramatru's knowing, that is the reflected consciousness, knows within time. Within time means its experience begins and ends. That means it knows one after the other. One experience and another object, another object, another object. So it knows one after the other in a sequence. But when Sakshi knows, see the difference between Sakshi and Pramatru. When Sakshi knows, it doesn't know the world in a sequence. That means it doesn't, his consciousness is, the Sakshi's consciousness operates not in time, because it is aware of the time itself, entire time, past, present and future. The entire, what you say, the gamut, entire stretch of time in one stroke it knows. Sakshi knows in one stroke, not in sequence, not one after the other, not one by one, small pieces by pieces. Sakshi doesn't know piece by piece, part by part. Sakshi knows entire thing in one stroke. Therefore, Sakshi doesn't function in time, doesn't move in time. The Sakshi doesn't have movement. Pramatru has a movement because it knows one after the other, one after the other. He moves within time. See, this is the difference to distinguish between reflected consciousness and the Sakshi consciousness. Now, this is a purely watching the Anubhava, observing the Anubhava. It is a vichara, not a logical thinking. Not it. It is not a belief. It is not a logical thinking. It is observation. It is observing, examining your Anubhava. Examining Anubhava is not a logical conclusion. There is a logic, but that logic is based upon Anubhava. Not a logic itself. General logic creates a concept. General logic arrives at a concept. But this observation of your experience and removing what is a limited experience, a relative experience, and see what is a limitless, natural, unchanging experience, changeless existence. You are distinguishing between them. So you remain in Anubhava, examine Anubhava, see the distinction between them. Okay. Here, this is not a conclusion, a concept arrived through logic, nor it is a belief. This Atma Jnanam is a direct Atma Jnanam. See the difference? Therefore, Vedanta is a vichara. Vichara is observation. Observation of existing Anubhava. Not drawing a conclusion based upon logic. Not a belief. It is directly facing the experience and watching it. In that thing, what is a false experience, tentative experience, passing experience, tentative experience, passing experience, moving experience, a relative experience. All this is Pramatru, all this is mind alone. But the Sakshi is free, free from change, free from relativeness, free from movement, free from beginning and ending. Sakshi's Chaitanyam, consciousness doesn't begin and doesn't end. It is, therefore it is, that's all. You can't think in terms of beginning and ending. Beginning and ending cannot be related to Sakshi. Because the very idea of beginning is mind, and that is known within, that is known to the Sakshi. Sakshi is aware, therefore Sakshi knows the entire avastha in one stroke. Therefore Sakshi is avastha Sakshi, because he knows the entire avastha in one stroke. Okay. Asangasya atmanaha, therefore asanga atma, that asanga atma is Sakshi. Sanskrit, I tell you, there are many synonyms. When you learn Sanskrit, when you read books or listen to the talks in Sanskrit, remember there are many paryaya padas. There are many synonyms in Sanskrit. At one time we use one synonym and another time another synonym. Don't think that there is another Atma. Just this out of the many synonyms, one of them we use and keep changing the synonyms. But the understanding is one. Atma is one. Okay. Asangasya atmanaha. Asangasya means unrelated. Pramatru is a consciousness, but it is a relative consciousness because it is related to prameya. Sakshi consciousness is not related. It is itself. It is independent of the external world. External world may be there, may not be there. If it is there, it knows. If it is not there, yet it knows. Its knowing doesn't fluctuate depending upon the object it knows. Its knowing doesn't change, doesn't depend upon the object it knows. It knows already, its very nature is consciousness, therefore objects may appear. If object is, it illumines. If it is not there, it illumines its absence. See? Object, Sakshi illumines the object and also the absence of object. It illumines both simultaneously. This is the nature of Sakshi. Okay. Whereas the Pramatru doesn't do that. The Pramatru or Jnatru, it knows when the object is present. If it is not present, it says, I don't know. It's a blank. Therefore, the consciousness at mind level and the consciousness at Atma level are two different. They got mixed up. That is Adhyasa. The getting mixed, means you experience a state in which there is a mixing. Mixing is not an event. Adhyasa is not an event. Nobody does it. Adhyasa is beginningless. That means Atma Anatma Adhyasa is beginningless. Nobody begins. Nobody makes an Adhyasa. This we have discussed already. Why do we have to repeat it? Just I touch it and leave it. It is enough. When you do Manana, you recall all the repeat it. Okay. Don't hesitate to repeat it. Oh, I already know it. Don't skip it. Think again. Again deeply and thoroughly, point by point think. Then that gives you good vichara. One shouldn't jump in vichara. Isn't it? In the worldly knowledge may be okay. But in Vedanta vichara, the mind and sense organs, they come and go. Okay. Therefore, in Adhyasa, nobody does it. You find yourself in Adhyasa. That's what we mean. Anadi means anytime you look at yourself, you find that you are in a state of Adhyasa. When you find yourself in a state of Adhyasa, when you can't find out, because the very idea of when is a time to the Pramatru. It is the Pramatru who is aware of the time. When you say when, it is a question within time. It is a point of time, within time. When does it begin? So, to watch the point of time or an experience within the time, it is the Pramatru. Pramatru thinks in terms of time like this, within time. But the Sakshi doesn't look at beginning and ending of anything. It is continuous awareness, effortless awareness. Therefore, Adhyasa is Swabhavikam. Who has to do Adhyasa? Does Pramatru do or others do? They say, Ishvara does Adhyasa. Ratnaprabha says, and one of my earlier guru also was telling, he says that Ishvara does Adhyasa. But the idea of Ishvara is only with reference to Jivatvam. As long as your Jiva, from relationship of Jiva alone, you talk of Ishvara. Then before Adhyasa there was no Jiva. Then how can you think of Ishvara? Before Adhyasa or in the absence of Adhyasa, there is no Jiva, there is no Ishvara. That means Jiva and Ishvara are within Adhyasa. Your Pramatrutvam is within Adhyasa. When there is no Pramatrutvam, there is no Adhyasa in deep sleep. So we generally look at deep sleep from the waking. No, not that way. Look at yourself as yourself. Okay. This way, Sakshi doesn't begin. But Adhyasa also Anadi. Because Adhyasa thought that I am so and so, I am an individual, I am Pramatru, Kartru, Bhoktru. This thought cannot be imagined in time. Because the very time comes along with Pramatrutvam. Pramatrutvam and time is one. There is a time, the idea of past, present and future. The idea of time, the experience of time is there only when there is Pramatrutvam. That means Pramatrutvam and time are one together. They are one block. When Pramatru is there, there is a time. When there is a time, there is a sequence. Pramatru knows only in sequence. Pramatru doesn't know the entire waking state in one stroke. He knows one after the other. Okay. That's why distinguish that Pramatrutvam from the Sakshi. This is Viveka. Viveka means observation, examination, not logical, but in observation come to discover what is what. There is one Sakshi, is just unrelated, asangaha, but there is mind which is limited and relative. Then I am not the mind, I am that self-existing Atma. Okay, therefore, asangasyatmanah swayam vyapara abhavat nishkriyatve sati kartrutva bhoktrutvanupapattehe. Therefore, that asanga atma sakshi has no kartrutva and bhoktrutva. Means what? It is not a it is neither waking individual nor dream individual. That's what it means. There is no kartrutvam bhoktrutvam. It means it is neither the waking pramatru nor swapna pramatru. It is neither waking individual nor dream individual. It is no individual. It is the basis of both the states, waking and dream. It simultaneously knows both the states, waking and dream. Okay, so that consciousness doesn't move within time because it is aware of even the time. It is aware of the entire time and entire avastha. It just is natural. Okay, next sentence. Yatvahu atma sattadi rupanam karmanam swayam karta bhavati spanda rupa karmasu cha prayojakatvena iti. This is another concept, but it's beautiful. It distinguishes between Pramatru and Atma. Another point. Just now we have distinguished between Pramatrutvam and Sakshi. Now the next question, Purvamimamsakas, it is a Purvamimamsakas say that Atma is a Karta. Therefore, here the next answer is distinguishing, he is doing Viveka between Karta and a changeless existence. See, when you remove the Kartrutvam, Atma comes a changeless existence, means a pure self-existence. When you remove Pramatrutvam, Atma becomes a pure changeless consciousness, that is Sakshi. When you negate Pramatrutvam, you are Sakshi. When you negate Kartrutvam, you are pure existence. Okay. When you negate Bhoktrutvam, you are Ananda. So, Ananda misunderstood becomes Bhokta. The pure existence misunderstood appears as Karta. The pure consciousness misunderstood appears as Jnata. Misunderstood means Adhyasa. Therefore, so far we did Viveka between Pramatrutvam, that is Jnatrutvam, and Sakshi. Now he is raising, Swamiji is touching Purvamimamsaka's concept. They say Atma is an active. Active means Kriyashila, Karta. Siddhanti says no. Kartrutvam is Pramatrutvam. Kartrutvam is Jivahood. Atma is not Karta. Atma is a Sakshi. Sakshi is existence alone. Sakshi means is just effortless existence. There is no movement, there is no effort on its part. There is no Kartrutvam. It just is on its own. Okay, this point we have to discuss. We started little late, 10 minutes late, but it is 12 o'clock. Anyway, 40 to 50 minutes my class. I won't go beyond that. Some people go 1 and 1.5 hours. I'm not so capable. My throat, my physical strength is not so much. I just can't do. I think we'll do in a small degree. I hope to finish Sugama and do some Prakriya Pratyabhigna I have in mind, because Prakriya Pratyabhigna, I got one student luckily. He is a serious student. He wants to learn Prakriya Pratyabhigna. I'm only thinking, should I teach in Sanskrit or Kannada or English? Only out of these three I am to decide. But that I am going to have a class in Prakriya Pratyabhigna is decided. I got a good student, very intelligent and good. He wants to study Prakriya Pratyabhigna. I think probably we may start even before the Sugama concludes, and another class will start. And after Sugama concludes, that will continue. More classes will continue. Okay, but Prakriya Pratyabhigna is also very beautiful. But I have to see whether Sanskrit or Kannada or English. In one of the three I have to see. Okay, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.